Welcome to World Gone Weird. Discussing, well, what isn't weird in the world today, am I right?
Indeed. From escalating geopolitical tensions to questionable tech deals, the bizarre seems to be the new normal. Today, we are going to talk about the possible unintended consequences of global extreme personalized sleep tracking apps on global security and whether sleep data collection and analysis can be exploited for both legitimate and nefarious purposes, potentially impacting national security strategies, international relations, and individual privacy in the context of predictive policing or targeted misinformation campaigns.
Sleep tracking? Really? National security? Seems like a bit of a stretch, doesn't it? Like we're going to start a war because someone isn't getting their 8 hours.
Oh, I don't know, Jimmy. I'm pretty cranky when I don't get enough sleep. Maybe we should be worried about world leaders' sleep schedules. World War III could start because someone's Fitbit vibrated at 3 a.m. and ruined their RMS cycle. Shudders.
Okay, let's try to be constructive here. I think the concern, as I understand it, isn't just about individual crankiness. It's about the data. All that data being collected on people's sleep patterns, their heart rates, their movements, that's a lot of potentially sensitive information.
Exactly. Think about it. These apps often know when you're asleep, when you're restless, what your average sleep quality is. That information can reveal things about your stress levels, your general health, even potentially your emotional state.
Right.
And that data is often stored where? By whom? Under what security protocols?
Probably in some cloud server owned by a company in China, right? Or Russia, or both. They're probably selling it to insurance companies already.
Oh, absolutely. Your sleep data is probably being used to target you with ads for orthopedic mattresses and sleep apnea machines as we speak. But is it really a national security risk? I mean, come on.
Well, let's consider a hypothetical. Imagine a foreign intelligence agency wants to assess the stability of a country's leadership. If they can get access to the sleep data of key government officials, military leaders, maybe even influential journalists, they could potentially get a read on their stress levels, their decision-making abilities under pressure, information that could be invaluable.
And it's not just about stealing data. Imagine a scenario where someone manipulates the data. What if you could subtly alter the sleep data of a key decision maker to make them think they're getting worse sleep than they are? Induce anxiety, paranoia, affect their decision making. It sounds like science fiction, but the technology is getting there.
Okay, now we're getting into conspiracy theory territory. Altering someone's sleep data to... what? Make them invade the wrong country? Seems awfully convoluted when you could just bribe them.
Right? It's like a Mission Impossible movie, but with more sleep deprivation and fewer Tom Cruise stunts. Although, I would pay to see Tom Cruise try to hack a sleep tracker.
But think about predictive policing algorithms. They're already using all sorts of data to try to predict where crime might occur. Now imagine if they started incorporating sleep data. What if certain sleep patterns correlated with other data points are used to identify potential troublemakers before they've even done anything?
That's a very valid point. If someone is identified as at risk of committing a crime due to their sleep data, then they can be unfairly targeted. This can be used to enforce strict social control, suppressing dissent, and targeting specific communities already marginalized.
So you're saying if I'm tossing and turning all night, the cops are going to show up at my door? Because that would seriously mess with my sleep.
Maybe they'll just send you a coupon for a weighted blanket. Sorry for profiling you. Here's 20% off a good night's rest.
The potential for misuse in targeted misinformation campaigns is also a key consideration. These apps could be exploited to collect data on people's vulnerabilities, stress triggers, etc., in order to create highly personalized and effective misinformation, which can also sway critical things as election.
Yes, and that can be combined with the manipulation of their newsfeed through AI to affect their decision. If a candidate is popular with 60% of the population and you can influence the remainder 40% using misinformation, that is a win for that candidate.
Okay, I'll grant you that. Misinformation campaigns are already a problem, and personalized data makes them even more effective. But again, isn't this just adding another layer of complexity to something that's already happening? Are sleep trackers really the game changer here?
I think the thing is, it's another data point. It's another way to get inside people's heads. And the more data they have, the more accurately they can manipulate opinions, influence choices.
And the lack of awareness is the problem, right? People willingly hand over this incredibly personal data without really thinking about where it's going, who has access to it, or how it might be used against them. It's like the Wild West of personal information.
That's precisely the problem. It's about informed consent and data sovereignty. Do people truly understand the implications of sharing their sleep data? And do they have control over how that data is used?
So, what's the solution? Ban sleep trackers? Put tinfoil hats on our Fitbits.
I vote for tinfoil hats on Fitbits. It would at least be a fashion statement. This isn't just a sleep tracker, it's a statement.
No, banning them isn't realistic or desirable. But we need better regulations, stronger data privacy laws, and greater transparency from these companies about how they're collecting, storing, and using our data. And consumers need to be more aware and more critical about the apps they're using.
Precisely, it all starts with education. We need to understand what we give away when we use these apps, even if they seem harmless on the surface. And we need to demand more robust protection for our personal information.
Okay, so, more government regulation. I can already hear the cries of Big Brother and government overreach.
Well, maybe we can get Elon Musk to regulate sleep trackers. He's already running the Department of Government Efficiency, right? Maybe he can add Department of Regulating your REM cycle to his portfolio.
That's certainly an idea. But I think this needs to be a multi-pronged approach. Government regulation, industry self-regulation, and consumer education. It's a complex issue, and there's no easy fix.
And we can't just focus on the technological solutions. We also need to address the underlying societal factors that might make people vulnerable to manipulation in the first place. Things like economic inequality, lack of access to education, and the spread of misinformation.
So fix all the problems in the world and then worry about sleep trackers? Got it. Simple.
Exactly. Just solve world peace and poverty, and then make sure your Fitbit isn't spying on you. Easy peasy.
It's about addressing these issues concurrently. We can't wait until we've solved all the world's problems to start thinking about data privacy and national security. These things are all interconnected.
That's right. The rise of sleep tracking apps might seem like a trivial issue on the surface, but it's symptomatic of a larger trend: the increasing commodification of personal data and the erosion of individual privacy. And those trends have very real implications for national security and international relations.
Okay, I'm starting to come around. It's not just about whether someone is getting enough sleep. It's about the bigger picture of data collection, manipulation, and control.
So maybe it's time to start wearing those tinfoil hats. Not just on our Fitbits, but on our phones, our laptops, maybe even ourselves. Just to be safe.
A little skepticism and awareness can go a long way. And demanding accountability from the companies that are collecting and using our data.
And remember, even if it seems overwhelming, individual action matters. Be informed, be critical, and demand more from the systems and technologies that shape our world.
Well, that's all the weirdness we have time for today. Thanks for tuning in to World Gone Weird.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go research the best tinfoil hat designs.
And I'm going to review the privacy settings on all my apps. Good night, everyone.
Until next time, keep questioning everything and stay vigilant. Goodbye.
Hold up. This just in. Did you guys hear about the protests related to the anti-Israel sentiments on campus? This creates an environment of fear.
It is concerning, that's for sure. It is not the environment that a university should foster. It makes me wonder how much politics actually influences higher education these days.
While recognizing the validity of concerns about the ongoing conflict, I am concerned by the potential for such demonstrations to disrupt academic life and create divisions within the campus community. Finding ways for diverse voices to communicate effectively, while still maintaining a respect for the educational mission, is deeply important to me.
Indeed, the sheer volume of arrests in the Columbia University protest and the reported liberation zone suggests a disruption to normal academic life. This raises questions about the role of social media and collective action in shaping public protest movements. How can we quantitatively assess the societal impact of such protests on both campus and broader societal norms?
Okay, you guys are diving deep here, but let's make it a little lighter. It's more like a reality TV show, with the reality being a comedy of errors, right?
It is not a comedy when people are getting arrested or suspended. It questions the motives of such decisions. These universities are supposed to be bastions of free thought, not places that stifle opinions that people in power do not agree with.
But Jimmy, can we not channel these campus protests constructively to promote necessary societal changes rather than just fueling divisions?
But how is society going to accept these protests when we have instances of occupation of libraries during finals? Those actions may not be helping sway people, but in fact hurting the cause.
That's the hilarious part, though, the library takeover. They're protesting one thing, but they're clearly not protesting the chaos their own actions are causing. The irony is strong with this one, stronger than a freshly brewed espresso.
Right, but when protests include the occupation of a library during finals, we're met with arrests, while other forms of free speech remain unchecked, suggests a double standard in the way different forms of dissent are handled. Is this simply a reflection of biased enforcement, or is there a hidden agenda that the authorities are attempting to conceal or suppress? I mean, that's why people distrust these kinds of institutions.
Yes, and that is concerning. And this is not just local, take the Pope vote, for example, ending with unsuccessful votes. What kind of impact do these delays have on the morale and future trajectory of the community or the institution they lead?
From a purely scientific perspective, it's simply a quantitative expression of a lack of agreement. It could be the consequence of personal values or different interpretations of a role, and possibly highlight the inherent subjectivity and social construction of religious leadership.
Is the Catholic Church having a smoke-filled room convention, or is there some kind of ancient ritual about voting for a new leader that involves a lot of smoke? I bet the Cardinals are having a lot of fun with this.
It underscores the complex and often unpredictable nature of human decision-making, especially when dealing with matters of faith and global significance. If such a momentous decision-making process can be so fraught with uncertainty, how much more so are everyday decisions where the consequences are less profound? Is the selection process for religious leadership truly the most ideal model for resolving issues of human affairs?
Still, the fact that there are so many people across the globe deeply invested in the outcome of the papal conclave and willing to travel and observe highlights the enduring power of faith and the importance of religious communities in society. The sheer volume of human connection demonstrated in that anticipation is impressive and inspiring, and I wonder what other forms of large-scale, shared human endeavor are out there waiting to be understood and appreciated.
All right, folks, let's pivot. I just read something that made me laugh so hard, my coffee almost came out my nose. Apparently, Trump accepted a free jet from Qatar.
Seriously? I'm almost speechless. How much of this current diplomatic activity is just short-sighted, transactional maneuvering, and how much is genuinely about long-term strategic goals for the U.S.? It feels like an awfully expensive dance on a shifting political floor. Does the guy have any sense of propriety?
The fact that Elon Musk and other prominent tech leaders are involved in this trip suggests a potential pathway to leverage technology for good and cooperation among nations. I wonder how the tech sector can be utilized to bring economic opportunity and improve the lives of people across the region in a sustainable manner.
The reported emphasis on economic investment and diversification in Saudi Arabia, alongside the arms deal, suggests a complex interplay of interests. A purely scientific assessment needs to analyze the long-term implications of this economic diversification on human rights, the environment, and regional stability.
Hilarious. Wonder what the fine print on that gift says about Trump's future use of that jet. Probably something about having to return it if he has to go somewhere else. Seems like a recipe for a really entertaining PR disaster, assuming they actually go through with the gift, and it's not another PR stunt.
The idea that Trump is somehow immune from criticism for potentially profiting from this trip while in office seems utterly bizarre. What precedent is being set, and how might this impact future presidential administrations? Is there a legal framework or ethical standard that prevents the appearance of corruption from foreign influence?
It's impressive that the Crown Prince is looking to diversify the Saudi economy away from oil. I wonder if this could lead to a more equitable and sustainable future for the region, one that benefits all of its people. That transition feels both incredibly challenging and potentially incredibly rewarding.
The significant presence of prominent business figures like Musk, Schwartzman, and Fink during the Saudi visit seems to underscore the interconnectedness of economic and political power. How do the motivations and priorities of these individuals intersect with the broader geopolitical landscape and national security interests of both the U.S. and Saudi Arabia?
Seriously, this Middle East trip looks like a grand spectacle of self-promotion. The amount of PR and optics involved is exhausting. Wonder how much the optics cost in comparison to the real investments. Probably more than the actual return, just a guess.
Elon Musk and other tech titans are part of this Saudi trip. What's the actual motivation behind these high-profile business deals? Are they genuinely seeking mutually beneficial partnerships? Or are they leveraging their connections to further personal agendas or gain access to Saudi markets? What's the ROI for American companies?
Lifting of sanctions on Syria, despite the complexities of the new government and its past, is a surprisingly optimistic diplomatic move. I wonder if there is some opportunity for diplomacy to actually build bridges and de-escalate conflict, as opposed to just focusing on the military aspects.
The lifting of sanctions on Syria, coupled with a planned meeting with the Syrian president, seems to contradict previous U.S. policy. What is the rationale behind this shift in policy from a purely objective standpoint, considering the historical context and the potential for human rights violations?
Lifting sanctions on Syria? Is this some kind of absurd geopolitical prank? What's the hidden agenda? Who's the puppet master pulling these strings? Bet it's all a very intricate game of poker.
That seems incredibly reckless. Who exactly is guaranteeing that this new government is genuinely interested in peace and stability, and not just a facade for further, possibly more dangerous, agendas? Is there any evidence this new government will respect international law and human rights?
Trump's emphasis on business deals in the Middle East, while potentially boosting the U.S. economy, seems to overshadow the region's complex political and social dynamics. Is there a way to pursue economic interests in a way that also prioritizes human rights and sustainable development?
What are the specific technological advancements incorporated into the new weaponry being sold to Saudi Arabia? And what are the potential implications for future military technology development?
Speaking of which, that Saudi Arabia's $142 billion arms deal is frankly a spectacularly expensive way to buy some very temporary peace. Wonder how many fancy new toys they'll be able to afford with the remaining budget once the inevitable next conflict breaks out. Purely transactional as expected.
The $142 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia seems like a wildly expensive gamble. How much leverage will this actually buy the US in the long run? Are there any concrete verifiable metrics for measuring success, or is this just a transactional short-term power play?
The sheer scale of the arms deal with Saudi Arabia, while highlighting the strength of the US-Saudi partnership, also raises concerns about the potential for conflict escalation in the region and the use of these advanced weapons. It's a complex situation, and I wonder if there are peaceful alternatives or avenues for resolving conflict that aren't solely focused on military solutions.
The reported $142 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia raises serious questions about the potential for escalating conflicts in the Middle East. A purely scientific analysis of military expenditure in the region needs to account for the interplay of regional power dynamics, the potential for miscalculation, and the long-term societal effects of such large-scale military sales.
You know, Sarah, what about the protests over Israel? A great display of how quickly public opinion on something can turn, not just on the protesters but also on the university stance, and the reaction from the student body and administration. All these factors make higher education more like a high-stakes game.
What do you think about all these anti-Israel protests? A great display of how quickly public opinion on something can turn, not just on the protesters, but also on the university's stance and the reaction from the student body and administration. All these factors make higher education more like a high-stakes game.
The fact that the vote for the next pope ended unsuccessfully and black smoke emerged from the Sistine Chapel is, from a purely scientific perspective, simply a quantitative expression of a lack of agreement. It could be the consequence of personal values or different interpretations of a role, and possibly highlight the inherent subjectivity and social construction of religious leadership.
Oh, and I just read that there's been another discovery of hallucinogenic mushrooms in Tyre Nichols' car.
Wow.
Wait, really? The fact that the Columbia protests, which included the occupation of a library during finals, were met with arrests, while other forms of free speech remain unchecked, suggests a double standard in the way different forms of dissent are handled. Is this simply a reflection of biased enforcement, or is there a hidden agenda that the authorities are attempting to conceal or suppress?
Seriously, Columbia University is having a bad year. A library takeover during finals week, a library takeover? They're protesting Israel, but they're clearly not protesting the chaos their own actions are causing. The irony is strong with this one, stronger than a freshly brewed espresso.
Reading about the anti-Israel protests at Columbia. While recognizing the validity of concerns about the ongoing conflict, I am concerned by the potential for such demonstrations to disrupt academic life and create divisions within the campus community. Finding ways for diverse voices to communicate effectively, while still maintaining a respect for the educational mission, is deeply important to me.